Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. You know, I recently decided to take up coin collecting. The change will do me good. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Hoplomachus Victorum from Chip Theory Games. Hoplomachus Victorum from Chip Theory Games is a solitaire campaign game of gladiators and arena fighting in which the player attempts to battle various adversaries in the arena before moving on to three primuses and ultimately the deadly Scion. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was a big fan of Hoplomachus Remastered. I thought it was just an excellent game. And Hoplomachus Victorum, then, is a solitaire campaign game. Now, you can play Hoplomachus Remastered Solitaire. There's rules in there for solitaire. But Hoplomachus Victorum is quite a bit different. It brings kind of a lot of different ideas to the table here. And this is, as I say, a campaign game. I have not yet completed the campaign. I'm about halfway through the campaign. But they're not terribly long campaigns, but there is, they do take up some time. So I may have some words to say later on about the whole campaign, but as it is right now, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what I'm experiencing with this game and give you my thoughts. You may want to look at this as more of an impressions video than a full review, but nevertheless, let's take a look. Now, the game comes with a beautiful mat, and this mat has spaces for different things. At the very bottom, you've kind of got a world map with the different continents and the locations on them. They've got capitals and then other places that you can go to and visit. You've got spaces for your camp where you can put your people, your hero that you're going to choose, as well as other members of your combat troop. You will also have kind of spaces to place your lineup for your enemies when the time comes. Other places to put some chips on the board and places for cards you'll put out there. You're going to put out your player card. You select your hero, you put his card out there. Essentially, you flip him over. You kind of ignore the regular side, the front side of his chip, and you simply look at the back on the board, and you go off of the stats that you have recorded on the player aid. Now, you've got kind of your starting stats, and over the course of the game, you can gain more things like leadership, meaning you can have more people in your combat troop. More health, obviously, you get stronger. And you can also gain, other abilities as the game goes on. Now, critically, you also set up the arena. You set up the arena at the top of the board, and here you're going to put in all the spaces the various adversaries from the different continents you will travel to. You're also going to have three different decks that kind of illustrate the kinds of encounters you're going to have during the game. You've got the Blood Sport deck. These are kind of fight to the death combats that you will have in some of these games. You have the kind of the sports. These are not fight to the death combats. They are instead usually games like Capture the Flag or King of the Hill, kind of games that you'll play there. But you also have the Opportunity deck, and the Opportunity deck, of course, will give you some fun and interesting things to do as well. Now, what you're going to do is at the beginning of the game, you're going to select the Scion you're going to go up against. And you put his card out there so you know he's going. You can put his chip in the far right side of the arena there. You're also going to randomly pick three Primuses. These are the other heroes that you could play, but you're going to place them in the stands as well, and you're going to have to go up against them. The game takes place over 4 rounds. You're going to fight a Primus at the end of one of those rounds, and the last round you're going to fight the Scion. But critically, you have 12 weeks in each of these rounds. They can't go longer than 12 weeks. They don't have to go that long, but essentially, every time you move on the board, you fight a new battle. That's essentially you're crossing off a week. So you have to be moving generally in the direction of the capital of one of the primuses, because at the end of that 12 weeks, you have to be there. You can get there sooner, but by the end of the 12 weeks, you have to be there in order to fight that primus. Now, the first thing you do on your turn is you travel. So you can move to any adjacent space on the continent you're on, or you can move to a port area. If you move to a port area, you can sell immediately to another port area and immediately move to an adjacent location. But if you do that, you have to cross off one of the weeks, because that takes an entire week to travel by sea. Now, as I mentioned, there are three different kinds of areas on the board. You have the bloodshed areas, the sport areas, and the opportunity areas that, of course, represent the different card decks that you have as well. Now, if you go to a bloodshed or a sport location and you don't want to fight, you can go ahead and choose to spectate. Now, if you do that, you discard the card that you have drawn. You can rearrange the top three cards of the deck as you want, and then you're going to gain influence equal to the act. So you won't in the first act. Second act, you'll gain 2. Third act, you'll gain 3. And these influence are bad things. Essentially, you've got a track on your player board, and every fourth turn when you get to on the influence track, you're going to add some bad things to the deck, to the bag, rather. More on that later. You don't want the influence. But you also get to, if you're spectating, you get to heal. You get to heal all of your damage up to what it says on your player board there. So you can heal. It's absolutely essential that you use these times to heal if you've taken a beating in a recent combat. Also, too, ordinarily you'd have a cleanup phase. You kind of skip the cleanup phase when you choose to spectate. Now, if you go to an opportunity space, you actually draw the top 2 opportunity cards, and these are kind of side quests, right? Things that perhaps you can accomplish that will help you out during the game. You pick one of them, and you put the other one at the back of the deck, and you place that card in the opportunity area on the game map. Now, otherwise, if you go to bloodshed or sport, you're going to do that kind of combat. Now, what you're going to do is you draw the top card from the deck, and you're going to see what it says as far as the lineup. Essentially, it's going to tell you how many of the local fighters you're going to fight. So you randomly draw one of the local chips from the local fighters. But then you're also going to draw some from the neutral deck very often. So you draw some neutral units there. And again, they're all represented by the chip color of your enemy. But you can go ahead and set them in the lineup in the order in which it tells you on the card. Now, critically, when you're playing bloodshed, you don't have to worry about this, but when you're playing a sport, you have to identify one of those units as a tribune. Now, depending on the continent you're on, you'll have your own unique arena, which will have its own rules. You'll have an arena card that will give you specifics about how combat takes place in that specific arena. Now, what you're going to do here is very similar to Hoplomachus Remastered. You're going to deploy the enemy. The enemy goes first, your adversary goes first, and then, of course, you deploy. On the turn you deploy, you can't do anything. Your character is frozen. Now, your enemy will mark certain of your units that it will come to attack. There'll be kind of a priority order on the arena card, and they'll come after, either the strongest or the one that has, been marked in some other way. And it will start to move toward you. And then, of course, it will have a tactic. You'll actually draw a tactic depending on the kinds of units involved, and it can immediately start using that tactic either to help itself or to try to screw you over. Now, if the enemy has any special abilities, those will come into play, and then it will engage. You do the exact same things on your turn, right? So you spawn, you move, you use abilities, and then and tactics, and then you engage. Now, when you engage, essentially, you're rolling the appropriate number of die, number and color of die seen on the top of that unit. In the case of your hero, then you're going to look at your player board, and it will tell you what die you're rolling. And then you roll the appropriate die. For every sword you roll, you lose one of the chips. Again, the chips of your health, you lose that chip in that battle. Now, during a bloodshed battle, you're essentially just trying to kill the other side. If you're playing a capture the flag, there's a flag token you can try to get at. If there's a king of a hill, you go to the top of the hills and you try to score those. You will score those at the beginning of every round before you deploy. Now, critically, too, as I say, one of these enemies in the sports will be a tribune. If you kill him, there will be penalties. In fact, your hero will actually lose health if you kill a tribune, even if the hero is not in play. That's to show the crowd does not like it when you kill their hero. They're there for the sport, not necessarily the bloodshed. So that's another important aspect of the game. Now, again, in combat, your hero will also have prowess cards, and these prowess cards will come into play with very special actions and abilities that will help him during combat. Now, once you have completed combat, if your hero is defeated, you lost the campaign. He's gone. But otherwise, depending on the type of combat you have and depending on your victory, you'll have some options. For instance, at the end of a sport, you can recruit one of your enemies into your camp, and then he will be fighting for you next time. But otherwise, rivals can actually be placed in the bag. They can be pulled out later and come back and face you over the course of the game anywhere. Any units you had fighting for you that were not defeated return to your camp. But you may gain other rewards. You can level up in leadership or in health. There's different things that can happen there as well. Now, you also have blessings. Blessings are a way that if you are defeated, you can still kind of come back there. But at the end of the game, the more blessings you have, they are worth more to you at that point. You have, as I mentioned, too, Banes. Certain game effects will have you put Banes, the Scion Banes or other Banes, into the bag. You draw them. These are things that are going to work against you. They're not good. And sometimes some rewards will allow you to actually get rid of these Banes. So you are playing the different scenarios, you're fighting the different enemies in the different locations, and you are attempting to make it to the end of the act by destroying the Primus in every act. And then finally, in that fourth act, you go up against the Scion. If you are able to defeat the Scion, then you win! Hoplomachus. Victorum.
We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review.
Okay, so I played and reviewed Hoplomachus Remastered not too long ago, and I was really impressed with it. I thought it was super fun, and one of the reasons why I really liked it is I'm not a huge fan, generally speaking, of skirmishers. They're okay, I'll play them, and sometimes I enjoy them, but they're not my favorite. And yet I played Hoplomachus Remastered, and I was the production sucked me in, and then the gameplay I just thought was fantastic. Played it with Ray a few times. I played it with my wife now, and it's just a great game. And there is solitaire fighting in that one. You can play a solitaire game in that one as well. And I was kind of curious then with Victorum, what does that bring to the table? If we've already got solitaire and Hoplomachus, what does this do? And the answer is a lot. There is a lot of really cool stuff going on in Victorum. For starters, you've got the travel, which takes you to the different continents every turn. There are different spaces in different continents every turn. So you've got, the different enemies you're going to fight over the course of the game. But you've got, options like, do you want to fight or do you want to spectate, right? And that comes with consequences and good things too. And then you've got opportunities, and you look at the opportunity cards, and you're deciding, well, which opportunity do I want to chase? Which side quest, essentially, do I want to go on here? Usually for things that happen in battle, right? So that's really cool. But again, the actual arena fighting here is very cool. There's smaller arenas than in Hoplomachus Remastered that fit, and I like how when you go to the different locations, you're using the different mats, the arena mats, and they've got different rules that you use for them. I think that's very cool, and it's fun to kind of explore. You've got the one lava mat where as soon as you start, everybody loses 1 health automatically, right? You've got the one, I think it's the one with the Argonauts where you only ever have 2 units on a board and they have to be adjacent. They're like chained together, right? So there's a lot of cool stuff. The you got to find the spear for the Atlanteans and stuff. It's just, they're all very inventive, and this game in what I played, it never feels samey. It feels like every time you go up there, yeah, it's combat, but the rules of the combat are changing, and the scary stuff is really scary, right? When those enemies come at you. But the opportunities are really fun, just generally speaking, in this game. When you're getting rewards, how do I want to level up my character? And you see them grow. You can also upgrade your dice, so your dice move up here. And then when those Banes come out, oh, that's scary. I really like this. This is, I'll say that right now, I think this is one of like my all-time favorite solitaire games that I played. I like it because you know what, it's not too hard to learn or to play. but there's a lot of meat here, and there's a lot of flesh here, and I like the variety, and I love the production. The production is just the artwork, the chips. eh, It's just all great. I freaking love everything about this game. I can't really think of anything that detracted from me. I think maybe when I was reading the rule book, there were a few things I got wrong, but I don't think that's the rule book's fault. I think that's on me. But aside from that, I really enjoyed this game. I think it is fantastic. I loved Hoplomachus Remastered, and all things being equal, I think I would rather play Remastered because I enjoy playing against an opponent. I think this is a great head-on-head two-player game. Hoplomachus Victorum, as a solitaire game, though, I think is one of my favorite solitaire games of all time. It's fantastic. On the Cody scale, I'm going to give Hoplomachus Victorum a 9 out of 10. It's great. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us here on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on Facebook, on Twitter. We love to hear back what you have to say, Board Game Geek. We'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please subscribe to this video and like it as well. Please give us a thumb on Board Game Geek. We'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, if you really do like what you see here on this YouTube channel, I'd ask you to check out my other YouTube channel, Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, military history, fun things like that. It'd mean the world to me if you would subscribe to that channel as well. And if you really do enjoy what you see on this channel, I would humbly ask you to click on the Super Thanks button and leave a tip. You know, I once knew a girl with a wooden leg named Lucy. I don't know what she named the other leg.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I've been dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. God knows that I love to fight.
And global thermonuclear war.